Yes, Molly, how are you?
I'm fine, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Molly, so we had discussed about the lesson, the case of the sharp-eyed jeweler, and we had done till page number 49. Today I will be continuing from page number 50. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
please get ready with the book. I had finished arranging the jewels in the window, and I was still keeping one eye on the young woman when a man came into our shop. It was immediately plain to me that he was an American. So what happens that we discussed previous day that he was observing a woman who was standing in front of an undertaker's shop, and he was observing her and doing his work. He was arranging the jewels, and in the meantime, uh, there came a customer. Okay, and he could now see we by looking at the people, we realize that yes, they are American, they are Italian, they are European. So he could very easily say that the customer that dropped in was an American. Okay, now see the description of the customer is given. You can mark it, put it in the brackets, and so that while revision, it will be easier for you. Now, one of the gum chewing Americans, an American is the easiest of all to pick out. There is his haircut, his tie in so many bright colors. And then so often you find him chewing that dreadful chewing gum. He was a big, strongly built man with a red face that showed he drank more than was good for him. His suit was a darkish gray, but his tie was a mixture of exceedingly bright colors. I took him to be about 35 years old. So again, we find that he is a great observer. He is observing the man, and he has in his own perception about him, like he was about 35 years and he drank more than required quantity because his face was red and puffed also. But he was a strongly built man, a big man. So all this, the description he is giving to the readers, and this tells about his quality of being observing. Okay. Are you following, Molly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If anywhere you don't follow me, you just stop me and you can ask the question. Good morning, sir, I said. May I help you? Well, he said, rolling the gum round his mouth and speaking with a strong Yankee accent. I would like to look at some rings. So the assistant, William Morris, greeted the customer, and he was chewing his gum, and then he spoke in Yankee accent, means American accent, and he was inquiring about some rings. Okay. Certainly, sir. Is there any particular kind you have in mind? Now, see how here also we come to know that how the assistant William Morris is dealing with the customer. So he is very well in his job also. Not only he is very good in his hobbies and his interest in people, his work also is very good. So he deals with his customer in a very appropriate and proper way. So he asked that what kind of ring you want. Now see, this is not a regular jewelry shop. It is an antique jewelry shop. So there the customer should have some idea about what he is searching for, what he is looking for. So that is the reason he is asking the customer that what kind of ring you have in your mind. I guess not, he said. Just show me some. So here he is very, he's not into antique thing. He's just very casual in his approach. And he says that just show me few rings. I don't have any kind of ring in my mind. But when people come to look for antique pieces, they suggest that they want something very antique, like maybe 300, 400 years old, or maybe from some royal background, but he was not interested in all such conversation. He is just interested in seeing the rings. Okay, you will gradually know that why the man is like this, and why the uh, assistant, that is William Morris, he is throughout he is very carefully observing his activities and his nature. Okay. I opened the safe and took out a tray of rings to show him and to get some idea of what he wanted. He picked out 2 or 3 of them and asked the price of them. Okay, so like he was doing his duty very well, he took out a few trays of ring, and the man was asking the price. Okay, nothing else. See, if a person who is interested in antique jewelry, he or she will inquire about it. But that man was not at all interested in the background of the ring. He was just interested in the price. Okay, then we get the information that he says, I noticed that he was left-handed. It was clear that he knew nothing at all about precious stones and the nature of their setting. The price was the measure by which he judged them. Please underline this line. The price was the measure by which he judged them. So in a very short time, he came to know that this man does not have any idea about the precious stones or the nature of the stones or the quality or the antiqueness. Nothing he is aware of it, and he is just only judging the commodities by its price. Okay, many people have this nature, okay, that they think that if something is priced high, it is very good in quality, but it's not always like that. Sometimes price does not matter. Sometimes it does matter, but sometimes it doesn't. So he all throughout you will find that how keenly the writer, that is the narrator William Morris, is observing the person, and every details he is noting about that person. There was one beautiful ring with diamonds and rubies set in the shape of a flower. It was well over 300 years old and had been in the possession of a royal family. So now the customer takes an interest in one particular ring, which is a beautiful diamond ring made up of diamonds and rubies, and it was in a shape of a flower. Okay, and this ring was quite old. It was 300 years old, and it was once in a possession of a royal family. Mr. Rayner had set a very high price on it because he did not really wish to sell it. Underline this line also. So we come to know that Mr. Rayner, the owner, he was not interested in selling such a beautiful ring, so he had priced it very high. Okay, see, sometimes people do this way because these things are attached. They get attached to these things and they become close to these things, so they don't want to get departed from it. That is the reason he priced it so high that maybe after listening to the price, the customer will look for something else instead of buying that. Mr. Rayner was like that. Now see, here we get the description of the owner of the shop, jewelry shop, Mr. Rayner. This also you can mark that he was like that. There were some of his jewels that he loved as much as he loved his children. Now see, this is very common when we are passionate about our jobs, our works. What happened? Just a second, Molly. Yes, Molly. So what happened? Some people are so much, they are so much in love with their work. They are so passionate about their work that they treat them like their loved ones. So such was the case with Mr. Rayner, and he also loved his shop, the work he did. So some jewelry he didn't want to sell. That is the reason William Morris tells us like this. The American preferred this flower ring to all the others, but he complained that the price was too high. He asked to see some other rings, and I showed him 3 more trays. Okay, so underline this also, because to be very precise, we have to keep in account all the details provided by the narrator. So what happens, the customer, the American, was interested in that flower ring, but he was saying that it is highly priced and he was looking for more. So William Morris showed him 3 more trays, but still he was unsatisfied. Okay, all these are creating a little bit doubt in the mind of William Morris. He is not saying anything right now, but as we proceed, you will yourself find it. His eye then fell on a 4th tray, which was still inside the safe, whose door I had left open. Then while looking on to the other trays, he just saw one more tray which was inside the safe, but the door was not locked. And then I guess I would better take a look at those as well, he said. I turned to take the tray out of the safe and then turned quickly back again to put the tray on the counter. It was then that I saw that the diamond and the ruby ring had disappeared. Underline this line also, and this is the turning point of the story. So what happens? He first turned to take out the tray from the safe, and quickly he turned back, and within those fraction of seconds when he turned back, he found that the diamond ruby ring had disappeared. And this was really a shocking thing for him, because this was really not common in their shop. And you know, the story was written long back, so those times there were no CCTV cameras and not so many guards in the shop. So this was something really shocking for him. Okay, clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I made a sign to Miss Suskind. Now see, there was another lady, she was also an assistant, and she came and stood beside me. Then I said to American, I see that you have decided on the flower ring, sir. If you will kindly hand it to me, I will find a suitable box for it. Now see, because he is a customer, the American is the customer, so directly the assistant or the junior assistant or maybe anybody in the shop cannot say that, sir, you have taken the ring. So this is a very polite way to say that, sir, we feel that you have decided to buy the diamond and the ruby ring. So kindly give the ring back to us so that we can gift wrap it and decorate it. See, this is a polite way to say, but the doubt had already been created in the mind of William Morris. I held out my hand for the ring. I hadn't decided on anything yet, the American said. I'm not the one who is going to decide. I'm just picking out 2 or 3 rings for my wife to choose from. She'll be coming in later this morning to make her choice. Now again, you will find the story getting more interesting and more mysterious. So what happens? The American tells that, see, I'm not the person who is going to decide this. It's my wife who will, I'll just pick out 2, 3 rings, and it's my wife who is going to decide what is she to be buying. She'll be coming in short while. Okay. Now this is like a shock for the assistant William Morris. Now he didn't actually, he had already perceived that something like this might happen, and it happened. So this was difficult for him to digest. Okay, but the flower ring, where is it? I asked in dismay. Then I turned to Miss Suskind. Will you please ask Mr. Rayner to come here? I said. So this man, he is very quick in doing his duties. When he found out that the ring was missing, he immediately called for the owner of the shop. Okay, so see, while writing the character sketch, we can pick those points about the narrator and describe him as a person. So he is very quick. Okay, he has a presence of mind and he uses his common sense. Okay. I came out from my side of the counter and began searching from the ring. The American joined in the search, and so did Mr. Rayner and Miss Suskind. And I could see that Mr. Rayner was most upset, but he was doing his best to keep calm. This line also you underline. So the assistant, Miss Suskind, the owner, and even the customer, they all joined in the search. And the most upset person was the owner of the shop. Why? Because this was the most possessed possession in his shop, and he didn't want to sell it, and he didn't prefer to lose it or get it stolen. So he was the most upset person in the shop. Okay, up till here clear, Molly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then Miss Suskind said, I think you ought to look in the turn-ups of his trousers. So then Miss Suskind, she suggested that maybe it is a small ring. It might have got into the folds of the trousers. So let's have a check. The suggestion was a reasonable one. It was quite easy for something small to drop in the turn of a trouser leg. And Miss Erskine, who is very kind person. Now we also come to know that what kind of a person Miss Erskine was. She was a very kind person, meant him no harm, but he turned on her with a very ugly look. His face turned even redder than before, and I noticed that he had stopped chewing. This is important. He had, when he entered the shop, the American, he was chewing gum, but now he had stopped chewing, and his jaw moved as if he were a fierce dog ready to bite. It was a dangerous moment and I felt afraid, but Miss Erskine stood there perfectly calm, and then the American bent down and felt round his turnips, and I helped him too, but there was nothing there. Okay, so they decided to look into the folds of the trousers, but they didn't find anything. And in this situation, Miss Erskine was very calm. She did not overreacted or she did not get angry. But on the other hand, the customer, he was giving very ugly look to the assistant, both William Morris and Miss Erskine, because see, when we do something wrong, we are bound to behave like this. Okay, up till here clear, Molly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.